we are so honored right here live on Montana Talks to be joined in studio by the Second Lady of the United States of America, Mrs. Aaron Pence. Such an honor to have you here with us. Thanks so much for walking upstairs, I guess, and joining us. Huh?
Thank you, Aaron. It's great to be here.
Yep. So you're a teacher. You're a pilot, maybe most importantly for us in Montana, the mother of a United States Marine, but you're also the Second Lady of the United States of America. What's that like?
You know what? It's really a privilege. I mean, it's. I think the thing that I've learned the most about being the Second Lady is that you have the opportunity to raise awareness for causes that you care a lot about. I tell people, people take my phone call now. and so it's an opportunity to kind of raise awareness, and I had a privilege of meeting your wife yesterday at a great event that we did for military spouses. And, I feel like military spouses are a group that really needs to be encouraged and elevated. I think the general public doesn't always understand some of the sacrifices that are unique to military spouses. And so it's been a privilege as Second Lady to be able to elevate that particular population. Yeah,
my wife said it was such an incredible event yesterday because, for those of us who are veterans who've served in the military, thanks to the Vietnam veterans that came before us and had to endure so much hardships, we have it so good. We get thanked. I mean, we have to take off our uniforms in the airport before we travel because otherwise people will just want to buy you coffee and your water and thank you nonstop, to where you have to take it off because people are so gracious, so great to you. But the family members, the spouses and the families that are back home, they have to wear that body armor, and yet they don't get the recognition. So my wife said it was really an emotional event yesterday. She said it was okay sharing that with folks.
Yeah, she was a little emotional. She said, I didn't expect to be this emotional, but we don't get thanked that often. And I think that's true. People see the spouse who wears the uniform and they see them serving, but what they don't understand is that the spouses and the children serve right alongside. And we like to say that those are the home front heroes and that they are the backbone of the military. And one of the reasons we're raising awareness of some of the struggles of being a military spouse is because they contribute directly to the readiness of our country. And if you have someone in the military who their spouse is saying, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, this is too hard, they're going to get out of the military. So in one instance, it's important to do it for our military readiness. We've trained our soldiers, we want them to stay in, this is the career they've chosen. But that's not the only reason. I mean, it's the right thing to come alongside our spouses and help them to be fulfilled. And what we talk about a lot with this campaign is we don't want spouses, we're not looking just for a job for a spouse. We're looking for them to be fulfilled, for them to be able to work in their career. And what people don't understand is that military spouses move frequently, and it's difficult for them to find employment. What people don't understand is when your loved one is deployed, it's more fulfilling if you have a place to go every day, like a purpose and a job to go to and friends and colleagues, instead of being at home and missing, that loved one. So there's so many reasons why it's important. And so we're pretty excited, though, because in the Trump administration, we've been doing some specific things to come alongside spouses. So the president signed an executive order about a year ago to provide more opportunities for military spouses to find employment in the federal government. But we're also working alongside American businesses and organizations to really come up with creative ways to hire military spouses. A couple weeks ago, I hosted 46 businesses at the White House and said, we want you to come up with creative ways that we can hire and retain our military spouses so that as they move from post to post, they can retain their employment. But the other thing is licensing. A lot of times military spouses, if they have a career that requires licensing, and that's about a third of our military spouses, as they move, they have to get relicensed the next day.
So you might have been licensed as a nurse in, say, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, but then you moved to Montana. Oh, now I got to go through this whole process again. Just to use an example, the number that my wife said stood out yesterday, as she was lucky enough to be in the room with these military service member spouses, she said you shared that the unemployment rate for spouses of service members, something like 26%.
24%.
24%.
Yeah.
And that's
not
remarkable.
Acceptable.
Mrs. Pence, we were talking about this number that you shared yesterday with these military service members, spouses. You met at the Billings Armed Forces Reserve Center with Guard and Reserve spouses in particular. 24% unemployment rate for spouses. And a lot of these women, and in some cases husbands who have to stay behind while their wives deploy overseas, they have good jobs, they have good careers. But when that deployment happens, they got to focus on the home front. So they quit those jobs, they leave those careers, and so then they pay that penalty, and then it's hard getting back into a career. So it's just as big of a challenge, if not sometimes more of a challenge, for Guard and Reserve families as well that may not get some of the perks that maybe other federal employees might get in a similar type situation.
It's true. And, we do know that our Guard have different challenges, and they don't always have all of the benefits. One of the things that we've been trying to point out to Guard spouses is that there are some benefits that they might not be aware that are out there for them. One of them is LinkedIn has teamed up with the Department of Defense, and LinkedIn Premium Access is available at no cost to all military spouses for 1 year. And it's also available to them for the year that their service member gets out of the service. So that's a great opportunity for a way to do some of the job searching and job hunting. Another program that is available to Guard spouses as well is Military One Source. And it's just a great website. They have chat, phone call, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. And you can reach out to them if you need counseling, or you need to know where there is opportunities for child care, or you want to know where the bank is if you're changing locations, financial counseling, adoption consultations, anything you can think of. You can call them and say, I'm struggling right now. Can you just help me figure this out? And they're there.
And you can file your taxes for free, and then call the 800 number if you got follow-up questions, which is a huge perk of that as well. Mm-hmm. I want to come back to one of the great young ladies that you had a chance to talk to yesterday. Also, another she owns a very popular restaurant in town called the Sassy Biscuit. My wife's in these book clubs, and all the ladies talk about, have you been to the Sassy Biscuit, and had their biscuits and gravy? So, yeah. But this is a military-owned, military family-owned business as well. What stood out from her story?
You know what? It really is. First of all, it's a great place to go, so I recommend it to everybody. I think I had 3 biscuits yesterday, so I'm going to have to do a little more exercise today, but it was absolutely delicious. But the interesting thing was Jalan is a culinary artist, and she dreamed of opening her own business. And so when they came to Billings, she reached out to Big Sky Economic Development, and she said, are there any opportunities for military spouses? Any special things? And so they connected her with the Small Business Development Center, and they actually came alongside, and they had a 2-day workshop that she did. They helped her come up with a business plan. They helped her come up with financing. Her husband, who's a Marine, was telling me that on Memorial Day, they actually had a line outside the door. And so now she is hiring. She has 30 employees at her restaurant. And so she took something that was just an idea, and she went and got some of the help that is available for military spouses and started her own business. And so yesterday, when we did this event at the Armory, we had about 11 Small Business Administration employees who were there to specifically help military spouses who might want to start their own business. So what we're trying to tell military spouses is, we're here. We want to help you. We see you. We thank you. We appreciate you. But we also want to help you in practical ways.
I know you've got to run here. You've got an exciting trip to Yellowstone National Park coming up here that you've got to head out for later this morning. I do want to get your take, too, Willow Way. And obviously, Vice President Pence, your husband, is here in town focusing on this meth epidemic. You got to see it firsthand. I mean, these young moms, and one of them had her little girl on her lap. Mm-hmm. But the good news is there is hope. She's recovering from the addiction. She's about to graduate the program. Talk about being in that living room.
Yeah, that woman's name is Andrea, and she and her daughter Lauren sat next to me, and they were very excited because Friday they graduate and they head back home. And we spoke to 3 women, Kenzie, Teamo, and Andrea, and I think Teamo touched me probably the most because she said when my son was a month old, they took him from me. I was an addict. I wasn't going to get him back. And she said for a mom to have her purpose taken away, she said I had no hope. And when she was accepted into this program, she said, now I have a purpose. I have my son. I'm going to be taking mechanics lessons. I want to open up my own mechanics shop. And I said to all 3 of them, thank you for being vulnerable. I think one of the things Melania talked about yesterday at the White House was she said, we want to take away the stigma of drug addiction. We want to come alongside and help people who are drug addicts. It is an epidemic all across our country. And we want people to know there's help. We don't have the stigma that we used to have, and for these women to be vulnerable and say, I am a recovering addict was just so inspiring.
I know you got to run. Final question for you. Your husband yesterday said Montana is your second favorite state. Mike, Vice President Pence said Montana, your second favorite state. Of course, but Indiana's where you call home. Yeah, last trip, I think last year, you ended up visiting a small church out near Absaroka, Montana, spending some time out near the river, going to Yellowstone today. Talk about what you love about Montana.
You know, we do love Montana. We also, last time we were here, we had the opportunity to go to Billings Clinic and talk about my other initiative, which is art therapy. And art therapy is a great program for vets. It really helps so much with PTSD. But we got to do a little fishing, a little hiking around Montana, and we do love Montana. It's absolutely beautiful, and the people are even more beautiful.
All right. Well, it's such an honor to have you and your husband, Vice President Mike Pence, back here in Montana. And, my wife said it yesterday that the military service member spouses could feel it. It was a genuine and heartfelt thank you, and that genuineness shows through in both of you. So thanks so much for visiting and taking a focus on these big challenges that we've got.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for your wife's service as well.
And thanks to all those families and others who have served. We have so many all across Montana. Have a great time in Yellowstone National Park. We'll tell Secretary Bernhardt to take good care of you when we talk with him later this morning on the show here as well.